Well, welcome to Ministries Podcast. This month marks the new year. For those who are listening, and this month we actually changed. Each year we have different monthly themes. This year we're doing the Scared New World, which focuses on possible internal, external barriers we may face today in feeling enough to deserve help. To begin this year, we're going to talk about the possible barriers, fears, societal pressures people may face today, along with the feeling. Even just the idea of asking for help can be a barrier in itself. Sometimes, unfortunately, working in the mental health field, some of the questions, internal questions, am I feeling better, may translate, am I less annoying to everyone around me? Today, we have a new guest. His name is Barry Adkins. So thank you so much for coming on and just being part of the conversation. Thank you for so much, Barry.
Well, thanks for having me on, Robert. I appreciate it.
Short disclaimer, if you are in the States, 988 is a suicide crisis lifeline. I encourage wherever you are, work, if you go to church or whatever, just if you can ask the question, I need help, get some help. If you really are in crisis, I plead with you to go and get that. Without further ado, I always find that people say better than I do. When I was in English comp, there was this one writer, Franz Kafka. It's kind of depressing, but I do feel like he cuts right through it. He says it this way: I was ashamed of myself when I realized life was a costume party and I attended with my real face. What comes to mind as we start off this year? A scared new world doesn't mean that we have to stay scared, but we understandably there's barriers, internal barriers, sometimes just pressures. What comes to mind when you hear this barrier?
Well, it's a scared new world, but the reality is the world isn't going to change.
Yeah.
It's really about how you handle it. It's been a scared new world for me since day one, right? Trying to understand, you said the costume party, everyone wants to put on their, and unfortunately in today's world with social media, everybody's putting on their face on social media, which really doesn't reflect their life. I'll just leave it that way.
Yeah, I just remember this one comedian. I always kind of use it when I'm talking to my clients is, don't be the mayor of nothing. Don't be the mayor of nothing. There's a lot of pressures out there, but, I cannot even compare to those, when I was growing up, cell phone I got when I was 19. I was born in the early 80s, so we didn't have that. So the fact that it was just starting out from K through 12 with access to idea of social media, and it's just I cannot compare at all. What the kids deal with today, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and for me, it's about how you handle things. We don't have any control for the most part over the things that go on around us.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing we do have control of is how we handle that.
And at least for me, there's this law, Kindlin's law. I kind of try to do it for myself, but also for those who are, if you write down the problem clearly and specifically, you have solved half of it. Well, a lot of times there's a lot of generalization. If I have substance use disorder, or if I'm having a struggle with my mental health, it's gonna not work the same for everyone. And like you said, it's a scared new world. It's not going to go anywhere. It's what steps we take. It's not about the major steps, at least from my perspective. It's more about the consistent, small, achievable steps to wherever that you want to get to. So, any thoughts or anything you want to add that I didn't share?
Well, I guess you mentioned steps, and I'm a big fan of baby steps.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we'll get into it more later, but I walked from Gilbert, Arizona to Kalispell, Montana with my son's ashes in my backpack, right, and told the story along the way, and it was all about prevention and that kind of stuff. And I wasn't very far into that before I really started wondering if I was going to make it. Right? It's 1,400 miles. It was cold. It was miserable. But I realized I wasn't thinking about it right. Because I was thinking about 3 more states, right? I'm not even out of Arizona. I got Utah, Idaho, and Montana to go through yet. And I changed my thinking to,
Mm.
I'm going to walk 3 more miles,
Mhm.
take a break. Now I'm going to get up and do it again. I'm not going to think about 1,400 miles. And I think it's a great metaphor for life. You know, you look off into the future and say, well, I don't think I can ever get to that point. And that can be a roadblock, but what steps can you take today to move that direction?
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. You know, it's one thing if, let's say, and people know this a little bit more, especially with physical health. If I want to start to run, I'm like, maybe I want to do a 10K. I'm like, if I run 5 miles one day and not do anything else the rest of the month, it's not going to help me any. So it's these little steps. Like if I try to run 1 mile and I can only do half a mile, just do half a mile until I get to run a mile. Like, and then after, so it's easier seen when we see it physically because you can actually see it. But when it comes internally, when you're facing these things internally, like you mentioned, yeah, it's physically 1,400 miles, but you're in your mind, you're thinking 3 states. It's just too much in that bag, if that makes sense. So I do wholeheartedly agree, and I do hope those who are listening, especially this time of year, everyone makes these New Year's resolutions. We're just past New Year's, and I think a lot of times these grandiose goals is the problem. It's really just the small steps to them, whatever it is. That makes sense. So
you have a lot of your sayings on there. I'll throw, I don't know who said this, but the line was that most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a lifetime.
Yeah. I just want to add one more quote from Mark Twain. I remember reading Mark Twain a lot, but he says this: keep away from people, and this is about environments. Keep away from people who try to belittle your ambitions. Small people always do that, but the real great make you feel that you too can become great. So it's just like, it's a response. I guess for me, I ask this, working with clients, I ask the question: if things got better for you, the people you're around, would they be happy? Would they be happy that things are going well for you? That's a kind of good guesstimate whether you're in the right environment. It's not about what side, political view, whatever you are. It's about whether they care about you. If they feel like you will do well, if you did well, they'll be like, that's awesome. Or is it going to be more of, how'd you do that? This kind of contradictory kind of questioning. Just be happy, because everyone's situation is messy and complicated. I could be I think nice kind of ruined us because it's so vague. Like, be a nice guy, nice boy. What does that mean? I could be supportive and also unreasonable at the same time. I could be stubborn and also kind. It's just these emotions are complex when we kind of think about them. But I just want to, right now, I want to pause a minute because, Barry, you briefly mentioned your story. I just want to I always give opportunity for those, especially new guests, because people who are listening may not know your story. I just want to give you the floor to kind of share what brought you to the point of doing what you're doing, and just anything else that you feel comfortable sharing. This floor is yours, Barry.
Well, I will kind of tell the high level story of it.
Okay.
So my son Kevin died of alcohol poisoning on the day he moved out on his own. He was 18 years old, just starting life. That very night, they had a party, and he died due to alcohol poisoning. And I was angry with God. Let's be clear. I was very angry with God. And I told him so. Look, you're God, back up time, take me, let him live, right? And I don't think, as a parent, that's not an unusual thought, I don't think. But a couple days later, I had another life-changing event. It was about 4:00 in the morning. I was laying in bed, wide awake. And I can only describe, and this is difficult for me to describe, but I'll do my best. I felt like someone had walked in the room you ever had that sensation that somebody just walk in behind me?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a light that I had never seen before and haven't seen since.
Mm.
And there was a message.
Mm.
And the message was that Kevin didn't suffer and something very good would come from this.
Mm.
And before there was no discussion. It was, this was the message that was conveyed to me. And I'm not here to tell anyone that it made everything okay, because it didn't. But it did give me a mission. And the mission was to try to make something very good come from the death of my son. As a result of that, I decided to put his ashes in my backpack and walk from Gilbert, Arizona to Kalispell, Montana, and tell the story along the way. Because I guarantee you, you don't want to go through this.
So, it's and how was the response? So obviously you started, like, could you tell a little bit while you're on that journey to Montana? Like you mentioned before, you were thinking all the states you had to go through, but like, did you feel, well, how did you feel halfway through? Like how was the processing for you, if you don't mind sharing?
It was steadily a relief, because obviously there's a lot of physical things you have to deal with when you're walking. Blisters, plantar fasciitis, bad knee, the list goes on. But honestly, the further I went, the better I felt.
Yeah.
Because I got into a routine. And you meet a lot of wonderful people along the way. I mean, as a society, we think the world is pretty jaded, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of wonderful people out there. Every single day, people would stop and ask me what I'm doing out there. And if it was raining, just about every car that went by would stop and ask me if I want to get in the car.
A lot. I would just want to commend you for, it's one thing to feel like, I like how you said that even though you got this mission, it wasn't easy. It was not easy. Like, I remember just starting this podcast, and prior, I experienced mental health pretty severely at one point in my life, and it just felt like I just wanted people to have a platform to be heard. A lot of times I hear, like, I was angry at God, honestly. I've been and I wrestled, and I feel that's healthy. I think it's healthy to wrestle. These things are, when they're kept in, they get bottled up. You just start to generalize and give up. And I remember, just for me, just to tell a little bit my story, I thought, just like this is why I brought this up also in the beginning, was I felt, am I doing better really meant, am I less annoying to people around me? Because a lot of times it's such an invisible disorder, but it's hard, especially now as working in the field, you kind of see both sides, and the fear is prevalent. It's not supposed to be easy, never was. This stuff is hard, but I think what I find very inspirational about what you share is, purpose can do a lot. Like, if you're sitting there and you're just, toiling, we could toil, we could, have reoccurring thoughts, negative, unhealthy, and understandably enraged, right? But where does that take us? And I do want to say I commend you for what you're doing, what you did, and what you still do. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Robert. It's all of those thoughts. First of all, I would say that for me, I keep my circle pretty small. I do not hang around with people that bring me down. And sometimes you think you kind of have to, because maybe it's the only friend you have, but it's just not healthy to be around people that bring you down. And as far as purpose goes, it's kind of interesting for me. I got more stuff going on now, but as I thought about doing that walk, I had a lot of people try to talk me out of it, Robert,
Hmm.
as you can imagine, because
Yeah.
I was not independently wealthy.
Hmm.
I think people were afraid I was going to fail, and I get that.
Yeah.
But one guy said something to me that I'll never forget, and I think it's really important for everybody to hear. He said, "How do you think you'd feel about it in 10 years if you don't do it?"
I see. Yeah.
Right? Because
Hmm.
sometimes we have these ideas of things we want to do, but we're afraid. Right? Let's be
Hmm.
clear. I was afraid.
Hmm.
I, I, I can safely say I was worried. Am I going to make it? Am I
Yeah.
going to look like a knucklehead out here because I only got 100 miles and I had to quit?
Mm.
I was afraid of that. But him saying that, and it's a great way to look at a lot of challenges in life and things you're thinking about doing, or maybe I could do this, or maybe, how do you
Mm.
think you feel about it down the road if you don't do it?
I different angle. I remember starting this job prior. I was not working for a little bit because of my mental health, and I just remember I'm like, well, this is gonna be more stuff to do. Like, am I gonna be able to continue the podcast? I don't even have a gaming channel. Am I gonna continue to do it because it's enjoyable for me? I'm doing more than I ever did before. I'm doing more now, even though I'm working. It's just for me, all those fears, all those barriers I was starting to build up before. I remember people would say, "Oh, you're doing so often. You may need a break." I'm like, "No, this is my break. There's different. Obviously, I need to sleep. I need to take care of myself. However, rest comes in different ways, and this is my way of resting, having authentic conversations. I feel a lot of times when I talk to my clients is not whether they need more connections or safer connections. It's like I ask myself, when was closeness unsafe? That's where I kind of dug, and purposely and very intentionally, just it sounds like how you do. If something or some of people, even though they mean well, if they bring me down, if I have to go there and I want to roll the dice whether I'm going to feel good that day or bad that day, I have to make a decision, and usually I've been mostly making decisions so I can be well and continue what I'm doing. It's not being, So I don't know if that makes any sense, but
It
I just wanted to share that.
it, it's okay to have people that give you um, constructive criticism.
Yeah.
You have to be open to people telling you stuff. And I can give you a few examples of it, but stuff that when they say it to you, you're a little bit upset with them.
Yeah.
But they mean well by it. And the one example, the easiest example I can give you is when I got done with the walk. I did the walk in 2007, so there really wasn't all of the cool stuff we have today. But I'd kept a blog, right? I did a blog every night, so people could follow along. And I got done with it, and I called a buddy of mine, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to print this blog out and put it in a 3-ring binder. You want a copy of it?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Why not?"
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Because you're going to write a book." And I said, "No, I'm not," because I'd just gotten through with a pretty big project. But a year or two later, there I was writing a book. So sometimes constructive inputs from people who think there's more there than what you've done, and that there's more that you can do.
Yeah.
You have to take that in when they say, "Oh, you can do better."
Yeah.
Right?
Of course. Yeah.
And that's where I am now. So one of the things that people used to say to me, and it's been said a lot of times, is, "So what's next for Barry?"
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things that, like, what's next? Well, I wrote a book and I walked in Montana, and I've told this story hundreds of times. What do you mean? And then someone said, well, maybe you can do a walk or something. I'm like, I don't want to do a walk. But then it occurred to me, I walked from Gilbert, Arizona to Kalispell, Montana to raise awareness around prevention and to honor my son. There's no reason that we couldn't set something up where everybody else can do whatever length they want over whatever period of time they want to honor someone they have lost.
Yeah.
In this giant thing we call addiction.
Yeah.
It's actually going to be called the Million Mile Challenge. It's not ready yet, hopefully in a few months. And the idea is you decide how far you want to walk. You decide how long it's going to take you. You can walk. If you can only do a scooter, you can use a scooter. You can run. But I think helping everyone to be part of a community. In other words, it's not me.
Yeah.
It really isn't about me. It's about challenging other people to do things.
Yeah. And I just think that's beautiful in the sense that building avenues for people to, participate. One of the things I always find very helpful, and is when people can participate, especially now in the community. Communities like non-existent in some senses, and being intentional about building a community that allows people to participate is a wonderful wonderful idea. And whenever, if you don't mind, whenever you do get that all set up, I want to be able to let people know who are in my channel about how they can participate. And
there's a few details to work out, Robert.
Yeah. No, not to rush you, but
we'll get there. No, it's fine. I want to get it. I'm hoping to do probably mid-spring kind of thing, because I want it to be interactive, right? When you sign up, I want to be able to at least put a pin on the map where you are, and then also, again, we're working on it, but I want them to be able to load a picture. It can be a picture of themselves or whoever they're walking for, and then give me a paragraph. Why are you doing this?
And I think that'll be wonderful to see. And kudos for doing that. And like I said, I just always find it amazing how whatever happens, and again, sorry for your loss. I want to say that first and foremost, but it's amazing how something so tragic can actually bring something positive out of it for those who may not know, may not feel they can, or maybe just feel like there's a lot of fear when it comes to addiction and getting the right help. And it's, a lot of this stuff, I focus on mental health and substance use in this, and a lot of it's, the biggest challenge is to feel willing or able, or even that you are deserving of help, especially you've been through rehabs several times, and you're like, this is, I feel like all I am is a burden. I just feel it's inspirational that that it's never too late, if that makes sense, to get right. So again, thank you so much on sharing that. Those who are listening, I also will put some more links or anything like that in the notes so you could check out more of what Barry is doing. But as we proceed, I just want to kind of dive really the focus of this month. Obviously, we mentioned Scared New World, but also just the idea of worth and self-worth. Do you think it's harder to say to ourselves that we some of the barriers when people don't ask for help, especially if they're struggling with substance use or addiction, is, are they even worth? We live in a culture where we have to earn our time to rest. If you're not doing something, it's like you can't rest. But what if it's something invisible like addiction. There's a lot of shame involved. So it's an open-ended question. Do you think it's harder to say to ourselves that we are worthy when it comes to when you're talking to those people on your walk? What did you see that a lot of people were struggling, or what did they mention, or if anything,
I,
regarding? Go ahead. Sorry.
I think it's a community, right? You
Hmm.
think, and that's part of why the Million Mile Challenge is, you think you're alone
Hmm.
in what's happening to you. And
Yeah.
especially with addiction, you feel like you're the only one in the world that has that problem. You're not alone.
Yeah.
You just are not alone. There are other people struggling with it. And, it's kind of a fine line there, but knowing that there's other people that are struggling with it
Hmm.
um, makes you feel a little more worthy, because you realize, well, this happened to me, and it's happening to a lot of people. So you're not the only one it happened to, if that makes sense.
It does. There is definitely the sense of community. I think one of the main founders of modern day psychology is Adler. He talks about community and belongingness, and it's how much it impacts positively. He actually, I was in the Air Force. The battle buddy system was developed through Adler's approach. So I do feel that community and just feeling that you're not the only one suffering. It's very easy to get there, especially nowadays. We isolate a lot. We are hooked scrolling on our phones. We're so connected, but less connected at the same time. So there's a lot of barriers in that way. But when we have a purpose that we can all come together and say, hey, I'm really struggling, but I'm not the only one. Maybe I should try again. Maybe I could get that help this time. Maybe they will be different this time, if that makes sense. So
It does. And there's another thought as you were talking there that I wanted to share, and that is, um, if you're feeling bad,
mhm.
um, do something nice for somebody.
Mm,
Volunteer somewhere. Uh, Churches, youth groups. There's a lot of places, food pantries. There's places all over the world that are looking for volunteers. And I think you'll be amazed at how much better that makes you feel about the world if you go out and volunteer. And it doesn't have to be anything big,
no,
right? It
no.
might be an hour a month, an hour a week. I don't know, but um, do
I,
something
I
where you're volunteering.
I feel just from my experience. I remember when I volunteered helping in pastoral care at a hospital. So I would go and pray with
There you go.
people, and that was, obviously it was unnerving because I wasn't used to it, but it was one of the most. I think that was very helpful for me. I'm a very audio sound person all my life, so I when I was in the church, when I first was really struggling, I was doing the sound for the church. So one thing I didn't even really listen to the sermons. I used to say this when I did sermons. I would say, I just want them to sound well. I'm not listening, but I want them to be heard. I was just very functional in that regard. But it helped me. Later on, I
Yeah.
became an elder. I was a leader in church, and I just saw the other part of it. But at the same time, doing something that's bigger than yourself is always going to be helpful, whatever that looks like. I started doing groups in the drop-in center near and locally, and then boom, someone wants my resume, and I'm now working mental health almost 5 years. So, so this is
Yeah.
how sometimes things happen. So I'm just encouraged, it is good to find something that you could volunteer. Volunteerism is great. Just do something nice, like you said, to someone else. Kind, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's, and for me, and this is something that I think is important, especially in today's world, is we need to find a place to be quiet,
yes.
right? I remember I lived up in Montana, right?
Hmm.
And I remember being out in the wilderness with my uncle one time, And he said something I'll never forget. We were up on top of this mountain, right? There's nothing around us for miles and miles. It's just utter silence.
Mm-hmm.
And I turned to him and I whispered, "Man, it's quiet up here." And he said, "Yeah, and it's got a lot to say."
It's funny you say that because I remember quiet used to be hard for me. Like I would have to put something, but I would say, obviously my own coping skills, mindfulness. I start to embrace quiet sometimes. I
You need
have
it.
this routine. Quiet allowed me to slow down. I do my best work when I slow down. Not slow down to a halt, but slow down that I don't feel this urgency that, eventually is just this validation externally. I learned to validate myself internally. I still need people. I'm not an island, but it's that balance that matters that help me. So
Yeah.
as I just want to say thank you, Barry. I want to this transition to final thoughts. Obviously, there's so much we can talk about on this subject, but any final thoughts you want to share with those as we think about a new year? When you think about some of the barriers that fear and being afraid can be, and community and everything you've shared, anything you want to end with as a final thought?
We'll finish it with the way I typically finish when I talk at schools and that kind of stuff. Forgiveness is so important. Anger and vengeance are going to lead to one thing: destruction. Forgiveness leads to healing. And sometimes the most important person you need to forgive is yourself. Everybody makes mistakes. It's the way you handle that mistake that matters.
I appreciate Barry. I don't know if I could go better than that. Be kinder to yourself, those who are listening, and forgiveness is definitely a huge, I would say, one of the most important steps.
Yeah.
The hardest mirror to look at is your own mirror.
Yeah.
And face your own self. However, it doesn't have to happen all at once. Those baby steps, like we said, those little steps towards. I remember this one saying, 1%, try to be 1% better each day, whatever that looked like. So
Yeah.
I want to say thank you so much, Barry, just for chatting. And I appreciate what you're doing. Those who are listening, look in the notes, find out more about Barry. I'll update you when the million-mile walk. Is that what you guys are?
Million-mile challenge.
Million-mile challenge. I'll update all those you guys, those who are listening, when that is official. But again, thank you so much, Barry, for coming on. Remember to stay updated with Revive Ministries through various platforms. We have the website, and we also are on YouTube. People, leaving with this last quote, and it's from Wayne Dyer. He says, "People who want the most approval get the least. The people who need the approval the least get the most. Take care of yourself. Be kind to yourself. Forgive yourself." And thank you again, Barry, for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, Robert.
No problem.